Today on the Whole Person Mindset, we're talking to Dustan Christensen, born and raised in Wisconsin on a small farm that taught him many valuable life skills that helped him to become who he is today. Currently working in sales for a national company in the food service industry, and carry of the book of business, 7 million, creating great relationships through service to customers and building the identity through strength is one of his professional qualities that he talks about to professionals. So, Dustan, welcome to the Whole Person Mindset. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Well, it is our pleasure. Dustan, one of the things that really attracted me to you in terms of wanting you on the show is this idea of personal growth and self-development that you have used in your career that has helped you define and build relationships with. And I wanted to know, what are some of the things that you've learned throughout your life in terms of personal growth that have helped you in terms of growing personally, like what, reading books, mentorship, like what are some of the things that you've done that says, this is how I've grown personally?
Yeah, I think I attribute a lot of it to reading. My grandfather always taught us that when there was a problem, it's our responsibility. Whether someone else created it or we created it ourselves, we have to find a solution. So with reading, I just took it upon myself that's how I grow. And how I grow in that is if there is something, we're on a podcast. So if I want to learn how to do a podcast, I go find 5, 6, 7 books and I read that. And whenever I had a problem or hit an obstacle, I would find books that would help. And a big one, actually, you touched on it, was mentorship. I always have, at least 3 to 4 people at any given time, because we all go through different seasons of life, that are there to be counsel and bring sound wisdom to helping me walk in that progression of personal growth.
That makes a lot of sense. I know, you can't see this. Well, actually you can see that, but that's a facade. My actual bookshelf is in front of me. But I probably have more books on my bookshelf than what's behind me. So how does someone go from just reading a book to creating practical How does someone go from reading a book to doing practical application of that book?
I learned a long time ago, you can't apply everything in every book. And while the book may have 15 amazing topics of something in that book, one of my favorites would be like Ogmandino books, The Greatest Salesman in the World, The Greatest Miracle in the World. They're story books. You read the book in its entirety, but as you go through the book, I think there's always 1 or 2 key things that'll stick out to you. Like in The Greatest Salesman in the World was relationships. Building the best relationship is what will always bring long-term success. So I would pull one thing out. I need to get really good at building relationships. So what are 2 things I can do today to build better relationships? Call my family or call some friends and just have a conversation. And 2, maybe I can change my language or watch people speak. So I could watch a YouTube on TED Talks or something like that. So I take one thing, being I want to get better at relationships, and give me 2 bite-sized little morsels. Once I start to get really good at those 2 things, then I find another book and find 1 or 2 more nuggets and keep it really, really simple, because I'm a note taker and I will go through the whole book and pretty much create a new book in a notebook. Well, in order to digest all of that, it's just 1 or 2 things. Hey, I could be better at communication. I could be better at eye contact, maybe shaking someone's hand when you first meet them. It's just picking out little tiny things that get you 1 step closer every day.
One of the things that I do when I read is I also take notes in my book. Like I'll highlight, I'll underline, I'll like, oh, this is me, da 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 da, and have a conversation with the book almost, and it helps it stick a little bit more. But something that has always fascinated me. There's people that strive for personal growth, and then there's people who are perfectly content doing nothing. And
Yes.
I'm not one of those people. Kudos to them. But I always have to strive to be doing better in my faith, family, finances, friendship, fitness, and fun. And through that, I've seen breakthroughs in ways and areas, whether it's financially or relationship with my spouse, or the way I parent, or the money in my bank account. How has personal growth changed your personal life in, faith, family, finances, friendship, fitness, and fun?
I think first I'll say thank you to my wife for the fun part. But I had to become the person that was prepared for her. So I think the first two in the personal growth world was really my faith, digging into who I am, who I was created to be, and not being shy of that. Having the courage to be who I am, no matter what people think. And when that happened in the personal growth space, I mean, you probably can attest to that. Everything around you, like your eyes become open. You start to see your life unravel in certain areas where you're really, really strong. I can say leading up to when I really dug into personal growth, I was about, I think it was like 21, 22, and I really started heavily reading. That is when the first 5 years was difficult. Reading was good. Trying to apply things was great. But that second 5 years is really what you just hit on. Things became fun. Talking to people was fun. My growth to get better every single day. I got better at sales. I get better at building those relationships to have long-term customers. I think the biggest part of me going into personal growth in all of those areas is I think it brings peace, right? Chaos can be everywhere, all around us, but we internally, because we strive so hard, that's how we find peace. When we got better than we were yesterday, even a little bit, there's a little tiny hint of peace in our life, knowing that we're doing what we're supposed to and we're chasing the best version of ourselves.
That's very profound. I've never thought of that before, because one of the biggest aspirations that I have in my life, like if someone came up to like, Evan, if you could have anything in your life, what would it be? Peace. Like peace. Cause money can't buy that. Like that's what I want is peace. And I never associated that with the desire of personal growth. But yet it makes so much sense now because, if something is chaotic, I want to learn and grow and be the best I can so that it helps bring peace. And I never associated that. That is so interesting. Huh.
Yeah, that's given to me. That's I guess my philosophy from my grandfather, from my family, is to be a light. Because we're such high overachievers, personal growth allows us to keep the flame going. It's the oil in the canister that keeps the flame going. Yeah. That if you pull out, that flame gets snuffed out because there's no oil in there, you stopped. Well, I think all of us have a responsibility to be that light, to keep the flame going for those around us. It's just for those go-getters, for the people that do want personal growth, we find peace in that. We find a calming spirit kind of come through, and that's where we level up. That's where we become more than we thought we could be. We find that new level, that new gear.
Yeah. Talking about leveling up and stuff, what I realize is my life right now is because of the standards that I have, not the desires that I have, but the standards that I have. My weight, my parenting skills, my finances, the business that I have in my life. Yeah, we have desires for more, to always improve, but where it's at currently is based off of the standards that I've set in my life and how I've become okay with those standards. And I'm realizing in my own life that I need to raise my standard for myself. How do we change our work ethic, our output to meet the standard that it's not just an ideal, but then it becomes a reality?
I think that's a good question. I think it can be very deep in how we get there. For simplicity, man, that's a great question. I think you need like an hour and a half to talk about that.
We have like 5 minutes left.
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
How are you doing that? How are you trying to attain that?
You know, the reason why I'm asking that, because I want to know. I recently saw a video on Facebook YouTube about raising your standards. I was like, oh my gosh, I am where I am because of the standards that I've placed in my own life. I'm not seeing the higher financial payout because I've been okay with lower financial pay. I've been okay with, now that I'm working from home and my wife's working from home, hanging out with her maybe a little bit more over lunch. Like she's salary, so she can go to work and get paid. For me, I have to go produce. And so when things aren't being produced, if I take that break, things don't get produced. So that being said, this has been a big desire. So here's what I've decided to do to answer your question. I am on day 5 of a modified 75 hard challenge.
Okay.
Do you know what the 75 hard is?
I do.
For those of you that don't know, a 75 hard challenge is you work out twice a day for 45 minutes. You drink a gallon of water. You take photos of yourself daily, and you read 10 pages in a book every single day. Well, my body right now would not be able to handle 2 45-minute workouts. It would collapse. Like, it's just not there. I need to build myself up. Yep. So my modified is 30 minutes per day.
Yep.
And then also I drink half a gallon or more, but not less. And it just depends because I try not to drink as much water at night. So I'm not waking up in the night because I'm trying to gauge my sleep. Yeah. So, but I'm doing that to raise my standard and to develop consistency. And so I think that's the biggest thing is, okay, what's the standard? And then be consistent. And I don't, like, as of right now, I've lost 5 pounds this week, which is great. And I know that's not like
that's
a golden
huge
nugget answer.
Yeah.
To do the 75 hard challenge. But for me, it's like, okay, what can I do that is measurable in a short amount of time to raise my standard? Yeah. So instead of creating, okay, I have a career-long goal this year in real estate to do X amount of business. Well, I don't know if I hit that until the end of the year. I can measure it along the way, but what's the jump start? And so for me, finding that jump start to help quickly reprogram my mind. And I think that's what it comes down to is I'm doing the 75 hard to quickly reprogram my mind. And in that, it will help me to raise my standard and redevelop the mindset that I need to be able to do it.
And that's exactly where I hope you were going, because I think it's 2 things. People always say, if the pain is great enough, you'll change. And I truly believe that catalyst, the why, the beginning is love or pain. So you either don't like where you are and you're going to raise your standard, which requires you to go on personal growth track. Also, get around people way out of your league. Yeah. Get people 5 years out of the way, 10 years, 15 years out of the way. You try and get people that you have to go touch, because that's when awareness happens and you start to realize, oh, hey, I got to pick it up a notch. Well, how do I pick it up a notch? Read this, read that. Get around these people, get around this group. For me, it's always come back to the same thing. And that is, my family is my why. And the pain of not being my best causes me to say, I got to get up and work out tomorrow. Yeah. Not because of tomorrow, but because I want to walk my daughter down the aisle 20 years from now. So I think everything you touched on is huge. It's bite-sized pieces. That's not this massive fireworks display the first day.
Right. Yeah. There's no way I could do the 75 hard the first, my body's not there. So I'm knowing what I can do and then doing that and being consistent, not setting myself up for failure in advance by doing something that my body can't do.
That's it. Perfect. Yep. And I can tell you countless times I've done the same thing. I think it's when you don't see the results, like you were saying in real estate, you might hit your goal the last 2 months of the year. But the other 10 months, are you going to get discouraged or are you going to stay consistent?
Right.
Right. And the consistency is you're putting in the work and the time and building that, right? The deposits in the world, and that'll come back to you if you're patient in that. But who you'll become in those 10 months is going to be ready and prepared for whatever financial relationships, whatever that may be in those last 2 months. We can't lose sight of who we become in the process of chasing what we want.
Right. That's awesome. Dustan, where can people follow you at?
At DustanRC21 on Instagram. That's pretty much where I hang out.
And how do you spell Dustan for all those that would spell it wrong?
That is true. It is DUSTAN, the letter R, the letter C, 21.
Dustan.
That's right.
Dustan, thank you so much for coming on to the Whole Person Mindset today. Hope you have an amazing day, okay?
Yeah, thanks, Evan. Appreciate it.
Take care.